How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. I got a suggestion to look at this YouTube short talking about Shiba aggression. And so somebody from the channel asked me how I would go about desensitizing a dog to having their head touched. So we're going to go through this video, we're going to watch it, and then I will go back through how I would teach this Shiba. And if you hear screaming in the background, like kitty noises and all sorts of chaos, it's just the little babies. They're just running around having a good time. As I hear them growling, I put up a little tiny, like, one-person tent for them to play in, and they love it. So, good lord. Okay. So, using this footage and all footage under Fair Use Act for education, criticism, just giving my point of view, just giving my 2 cents and, how I might handle this situation. So I guess that was the before, and this is the after. I don't know how long they've been working.
Yeah, Shiba.
Zupa is his name, I guess. Beautiful little Shiba. Reminds me a lot of Adonis. Oh, I hear a kitty in the background. Good lord, did you just hit the window? Are you okay? Okay, so perfect look of a Shiba. So having owned a Shiba myself, who has never ever acted like this, let me just first point out, no matter how aggressive or vicious this dog looks, it's based off of fear. So for me, I wouldn't have him on a slip lead, but this looks like a little medical area. This dog could be in a shelter. I don't know. Maybe this is just their house. But I personally wouldn't have him on a slip lead. I would have him on a harness, because, or just running loose. I hope you can hear me okay. If I hope the noises aren't too distracting for you, but I would have him just running loose, and I wouldn't have this leather glove. I mean, I do have a pair of gloves for very specific, like, feral cases, but I would not even be anywhere near this dog, especially not around his head and his face. As far away as he wants to be, he can come up to me, he can move away. If he comes up, I'll just move my hand and toss a treat in his direction. And if he wants to come up and get the treat, run away, he certainly can. I'm not even going to try to start touching his head and desensitizing his head without having, a bond with him or making him feel safe. So they go to touch and they give the treat. They also tend to correct him when he starts to growl, and they say, no, or ah, ah, ah. So that right there, he shows the teeth. That's a warning. I would not correct that. I want him to be able to tell me that's too much pressure. Just touching him. So this hand, as it gets closer to him, pressure. As they pet him, more pressure. He shows the growling. They moved away. I would rather touch and then move away and not get the growling. That's the goal, is to be able to work your way up to touching him before he feels the need to react. So here you're working too fast anyway. Although they do get results, it's not how I would do it. I don't think it's long-term results. I don't think it's safe. So he's tolerating this, lots of lip licks. He does get a food reward, which is great. But I think that you can make it that much. I don't think this is going to transfer without having the food. And everybody knows I'm a big advocate of using food, high reinforcement, food or toys or treats or whatever. Are you all right? And I'll show you an example, of myself, how I would work with a dog in just a minute, a demonstration. But just watching this video, they're working way too fast. If you have to use a glove and a slip lead, although they're not using the slip lead, it's just there. The dog is choosing to sit still. If you have to use a glove to desensitize a dog, you're working way too fast. So I do like that they are using food, but they could make it that much easier on the dog by not even coming up to. I mean, who's going to want, realistically, who would be comfortable with someone with a big leather glove, looks like a welder's glove or some sort, coming up to their face and then trying to pet their head, and there's, like 3 people around him, this person standing over the dog, all of this is, I mean, you could do whatever you want. Like, they get progress. You know, I'm not trying to harp on people. Like, this isn't anything, you know, like, I'm not saying this is a bad trainer or anything. This is not how I would desensitize them, because to me, this is not going to transfer to long-term success. The dog is just tolerating you. You know, if I'm working with the dog, I don't care if the dog ever accepts a stranger petting them. I want the dog to be safe for the owners and, you know, to maybe tolerate the vet. You know, only specific people to be okay petting them. I don't expect, I guess that'd be a better way to put it. I don't expect the dog to be okay with me as a stranger off the street, you know, for all he cares, to come petting him. But, you know, I would rather I would teach the owners to touch the dog in the manner which I'll show you in person as a demonstration. But there he pet, reward, again, bending over the dog. I don't know if he's making eye contact or not. A lot of people do make eye contact with dogs. So I wouldn't have worried about making the dog sit, especially if you're going to have them sit so that you can go pet them. I would rather reward for the sit. I would rather wait for the dog to sit on their own. But he does seem a lot more comfortable here, more focused on, you know, more of a positive association. Again, because the treat is there. A couple lip licks, though, and they want him to touch. They say touch. They go over with a closed fist. Can be intimidating to the dog. Will you let go of him? I'm eating his head. They come up to the dog with a closed fist. Then they go on top of the dog's head, around the side of the cheek, and the dog is moving away from them. Too much pressure. The dog goes to either lip lick or lick the hand, and then they get a reward. It doesn't mean that this is, you know, you can't do it this way. I just don't think I just like to go slower than this for the sake of the dog. All right, so here we are. I have my dog here as my little helper, my little blow-up dog. So I'm going to show you how I would personally be working with a dog that is nervous and I'm trying to desensitize them. First off, I would start very low to the ground, and the dog is free to go wherever they want to. So this dog probably wouldn't be nearly this close to me. If they just want to stand parallel to me, that's fine. If they want to just turn their butt to me, that's fine too. You know, they can stand or sit or be wherever they want to that they feel the safest. So say they are just sitting next to me. I'm just sitting here. I'm going to avoid eye contact. I will sit perpendicular to them. So if they're facing this way, I'm facing this way. I'm going to be looking over here where I will have my treat. I might, you know, have my open hand if they flinch away. And I say, okay, too much. I'll take my treat and I'll toss it away from myself. I always like to do that so I can reinforce the dog for moving away from me and therefore keeping themselves from getting trapped. A lot of times dogs don't know that if they're in a corner or they run up and corner themselves and get themselves in a bad situation, they don't know that they can get out of that when there's a lot of openings. So I always want to make sure I wouldn't have a dog in this corner here because there's a lot of trap points. So I would I would be in a wide open area, and I want to make sure they have plenty of room and they have plenty of exits. I'm not going to have any leash on this dog. If the owners want to have one, they can let the dog drag the leash. But a lot of times when people that don't understand how pressure can affect their dog, if their dog is already nervous and they happen to put any tension on that leash while I'm interacting with the dog, it could cause the dog to redirect on me or bite me or somebody else. So not that it's the end of the world, but that's why I like to just let the dog be free. They can move. They know how to keep themselves comfortable. So say the dog is comfortable enough to come up to me. I can give them a treat straight out of my hand. For a lot of dogs, they're not comfortable. They can run up, they'll take the treat, and they run away. And that's okay with me. I don't expect to get very far with them, especially not in the first session. Most of the time when I'm teaching this, I'm teaching the owners how to continue the training because I don't expect the dog to be, you know, okay with me touching him all over as a stranger. We teach the dog to trust the owners and possibly prepare them for the vet or other, you know, practical reasons. But I don't expect any stranger to just come up and be touching this dog. You know, I let the people know. So like with the Shiba, say we get to this point where I'm able to just sit here next to him. I'm not standing over him. I'm not making him nervous. You know, I'm just sitting here. The dog can be sitting, standing, laying down, rolling over, whatever. When I start to get the dog used to me handling them, like with the Shiba there, I'm not going to go for the head. I'm not going to go petting the head because that's where the hands come from. It's very intimidating. So I always like to go for the shoulder. In this case, if he were facing me, I would go for the far shoulder or the inside shoulder. So if he wants to move away, he can go this way. There's a lot more room for him. If I pet here, he has nowhere to go but here, and it's tight quarters. So he has what I like to refer to as pressure on either side. I'm touching him here. He wants to avoid my hand touching as pressure, makes him nervous. And then he's running into a wall here, so he feels trapped. So if I'm going to be touching him, I have to be very careful about where he's going to go because he wants to move away from seemingly pressure, which is just a light touch. So I would start by just putting my hand up like this, moving it away, reward. Put my hand up, move it away, reward. The reason why I start this way is because if I do this and he doesn't react, perfect. Smooth sailing, we're going to work our way up to touching him. If I do this and he moves away, he even leans away, he gives me a lip lick, I'm going to say, okay, I'm working too fast. My goal is for him to not react at all. So if I do this and he gives me a lip lick, I'm going to say, okay, I can do a couple of things. I can, keep my hand still here and reward him a couple of times that way, and then slowly, gradually move up. Or I can keep doing this in a slow, methodical manner while occasionally giving him maybe treats every other time I raise my hand like this. I want to move in rhythm and let him know that this is, just me. I'm going to move my hand so he knows what's going to happen before it happens. I don't want to make quick movements towards him. I don't need a glove or anything like that. If you wear a glove, it's because you plan to get bitten at some point. That means that you're working too fast, in my opinion. If I do this, mark and reward. Okay? If the dog is okay with that, then I can start slowly moving over and moving away. I know this is really, really slow, but this is how I train. Eventually I can just go very gently, tap, and move away. And a lot of times dogs will kind of look at you, they'll sniff at you. So maybe next time I'll just go and hold my hand there and move away. I won't touch them. Or if they want to come sniff, they can sniff if it looks like they're, sometimes dogs will kind of sniff and they snap at you before you can take your hand away. So that's when you go back and you do slow movement, getting their trust. Have the owners practice this, not the stranger, even the trainer. So this guy is okay with me just touching and rewarding. Then this is pressure and this is release or stimulus. His response is not moving, and then he gets a reward. Stimulus, response, reward, pressure, release. So once I can start doing this, give him a little reward, do this again, give him a little reward while he's just sitting there. This could be just 1-2 minute session that you do, and you move on. Always make sure that you know that dogs have two sides. So practice, this is something totally different. Petting on this side is different from this side. My hand is stretching in front of them. You can get them used to all sorts of ways your hand will be going about them as the owner. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to be like that with everyday strangers. Depending on whoever is in your house, most often, if you have kids, practice with the kids. But make sure that you're supervised. Make sure they go slow. If you can't practice that and the dog is afraid of kids touching them, make sure you have a way to watch the kids and watch the dog, and the dog always has a way to get away from the children and they have a safe place to go. So if I'm petting this guy here, this is a little bit longer. So I'm petting him here, this is pressure and release. And you're going to be reading your dog as you do this. How long are they going to tolerate this? Over time, you can let them know that it's fun. Or maybe they just don't ever like petting. A lot of dogs don't like petting. So especially on the face. If I want to get a dog used to touching on the face, then this is what I do. I start at the shoulder on either side. I can go under the chest and give them a little chest scratch. Slowly go up under the chin. When you're around the throat and the neck, they can feel vulnerable. So put yourself in their position. If he were to look at me and sniff, then he could sniff. I could take my hand away, give him a little reward. Over time, I can go from, I'm going to show you on this side, but I would be working on this side. You're going to work your way slowly from the shoulder, up the neck, scratch a little bit, move away, and then you work your way slowly from the neck up to the ear. So if you're behind the ear like this, you can scratch it a little bit, move away. If the dog leans into you, they're probably pretty accepting and they want more rubbing. Eventually you can pet your dog a little bit more rough. You can handle him a little bit rough. Doesn't mean that you need to. I don't like when people just smack a dog around just for the sake of because it's a Rottweiler, it needs to be okay handling that, or because it's a pit bull, or that's nonsense, okay? I don't expect my dog to ever put up with someone pulling on his ears or, pulling on his tail and yanking it out of socket or, whatever, okay? He's not going to be around kids like that. And if he is around kids, I make sure that they respect him. and give him his space. But I'm not really around kids a lot, so. But for this guy, you know, if we were getting him used to this, again, I'm going to start on maybe the back of the neck, the shoulder. You can go up. You can slowly go up to his little face. And again, it starts over pressure, release. If you put your hand up like this and he starts to give you the little teeth, I'd say, okay, working too quick. I'm just going to put my hand here, mark and reward. Or have a little bit like peanut butter on a spoon. He can lick it. He can see that you're coming up. You don't want to be sneaky. Don't try to sneak up and touch him in the face. Let him know what's going to happen, that, hey, my hand's just going to go right here. You know, if you do this and your dog flinches away, get your dog used to your hand being up here. You may have never hit your dog in your life. I'm not saying anybody has. I'm not saying that any dog that flinches from a hand has been beaten or hurt. You know, it's just dogs may not be used to things over their head like that. So that's where I would start. Then I would slowly get them used to me, just one little pet, reward, you know, back to their body. Start where they're comfortable, move up to the sensitive area or wherever area that the dog doesn't like the most. Somewhere comfortable, a little bit of there, and then they go back to comfortable. We're scratching their chest. Good job. We move just under the chin, back down for scratches. Again, try not to be sneaky. This is just how I do it. So I like to take my time. I take the time it takes less time. I like to work for the dog, not just for the human. So that's how I would do it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope that answers some questions. The little kitties that I've been watching have been dropped off back at NOAA. They're up for adoption. So thanks again. Give your little critters some kind of loving for me. Say how do you do for me. Until next time, practice some positivity.